In a shock move, Donald Trump just took to social, writing, "We have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. All planes are now outside of Iran airspace. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter." In other words, the United States has now involved itself in a brand new war in the Middle East, courtesy of the self-proclaimed anti-war president. Remember how Donald Trump spent the last 5 months saying that Ukraine-Russia would have never happened if he was president? How Israel-Gaza would have never happened if he was president? Well, the reality is that not only did he not prevent any foreign wars, he couldn't even keep the United States directly out of a war. Unless, of course, you believe that Iran will just calmly accept his edict of peace and we'll all just live in harmony from here on out. In which case, Trump probably has a cell phone plan to sell you. In fact, Trump took this aggressive action on the pretense that Iran has nuclear capabilities, a point that his own director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, denies.
What intelligence do you have that Iran is building a nuclear weapon? Your intelligence community has said they have no evidence that they are at this point.
Well, then my intelligence community is wrong. Who in the intelligence community said that?
Your director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard.
She's wrong.
And yet he insists that Iran has these weapons regardless, which, I gotta say, sounds awfully familiar. In fact, here's Donald Trump himself ahead of the 2016 election.
Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake, all right? Now, you can take it any way you want, and it took Jeb Bush, if you remember at the beginning of his announcement, when he announced for president, took him 5 days. He went back. It was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. Took him 5 days before his people told him what to say, and he ultimately said it was a mistake. The war in Iraq, we spent $2 trillion, thousands of lives. We don't even have it. Iran is taking over Iraq with the second largest oil reserves in the world. Obviously, it was a mistake. So George Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
But so you still think he should be impeached?
I think it's my turn, isn't it? You do whatever you want. You call it whatever you want. I want to tell you, they lied.
Okay.
They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
All right.
But hey, I'm sure this time is totally different and that Donald Trump has all the proof he needs, even if our own intelligence community says the exact opposite. It's also worth noting that this military action against Iran was illegal, in that Donald Trump did not seek congressional approval. He doesn't have the authority to unilaterally declare war. Congress does. Merits of Iran's nuclear capabilities aside, it is not up to the sole discretion of one man to launch a military attack on a brand new foreign country. It is up to Congress, a point that Adam Schiff made here.
Does the president, from your perspective, have the legal authority, to go ahead and strike Iran's nuclear facilities without formal congressional approval?
No, I don't think he does. And I think Congress should insist on having a vote on this prior to a decision to engage in hostilities in that manner. Whether we will or not is very much an open question. We have, over the last 10 or 20 years, really ceded our authority to declare war or to refuse to declare war under the Constitution. So whether this Congress will say a word about it remains to be seen. But I do think congressional approval is both desirable and, from a constitutional point of view, necessary.
I mean, hell, even Republican Congressman Thomas Massie made that point, writing, "This is not constitutional." Of course, as far as the White House is concerned, the law does not apply to them, which is why Caroline Leavitt already signaled that the administration wasn't interested in getting the requisite authority in the event that we did decide to strike.
That Iran has never been closer to obtaining a nuclear weapon.
And then if the U.S. were to take some type of military action, would the president go to Congress to seek war authority?
I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals. I gave you the statement from the president. He'll make a decision within 2 weeks.
And yet the reason this is happening is because the legislative branch, controlled by Republicans, is never going to assert its authority, other than Thomas Massie and maybe Rand Paul. Mike Johnson and John Thune and the rest of the rank-and-file Republicans are allergic to standing up to this president, and so they will allow him to run roughshod over the Constitution and usurp all of their authority, because their only job, apparently, is to act as an extension of the God King. Donald Trump loves to pretend that he delivers on his promises, but the reality is that he said whatever he needed to say to get into office. Like, for example,
These globalists want to squander all of America's strength, blood, and treasure
chasing monsters and phantoms overseas. In addition, there must also be a complete commitment to dismantling the entire globalist neocon establishment that is perpetually dragging us into endless wars, pretending to fight for freedom and democracy abroad. We should have never gone into the Middle East. We should have never gone into the Middle East. Under my leadership, we will turn the page forever on those foolish, stupid days of never-ending wars. We're rebuilding our military stronger than ever before, and we are not going to deplete it again on stupid, senseless, endless wars. World War III has never been closer than it is right now. We need to clean house of all of the warmongers and America last globalists and the deep state. I am the president who delivers peace. I was the first president in decades who didn't start a war. But the Muslim and Arab voters in Michigan and across the country want a stop to the endless wars and a return to peace in the Middle East. That's all they want. And the worst, most incompetent, most corrupt president in history is going to drag us into World War III. I'll keep you out of World War III. What would happen if we had a war? We won't, with me, but you will have World War III, I believe, without me, but we won't have. I will be sure that World War III will not happen. I'm the only one can say it won't happen. But I stand here today, and I'm the only candidate who can make this promise. I will prevent, and very easily, World War III, very easily.
But now that he's got power, he's perfectly content to abandon his promises. Just like he did on lowering costs and protecting earned benefits like Medicaid and Social Security and Medicare, he views himself as completely unaccountable to everyone and anyone, because that's what autocrats do. And now, because he sees himself as all-powerful, the United States will likely be dragged into yet another war in the Middle East at the hands of a power-hungry autocrat who is drunk on his own power. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.